you are watching on YouTube, you would see we have the updated background, a nice little white background with the updated playoff picture as our background today for this segment. And I got a lot of thoughts. Mainly, I believe that, and again, contrary to what's been in the past in the NBA, the number 6 seed versus the number 7 seed in the Western Conference, that being the Lakers Warriors, which game two will take place tonight. Lakers won game one in thrilling, yet pretty much convincing fashion. I believe that the winner of this series will be crowned the Larry O'Brien champion and the NBA Finals champion in the middle of June. That's right. I believe this series between the number 7 seed Los Angeles Lakers, number 6 seed Golden State Warriors is your true NBA Finals. Again, I will repeat this fact and I will keep repeating it until we see it sort of differentiates from the norm. But in NBA history, only 2 teams have won the championship, not being a top 3 seed. That being the number 4 seed Boston Celtics in the 1960s with Bill Russell, and in 1995, the Houston Rockets, led by Hakeem Olajuwon, who was out for most of that regular season. That was the last year that Michael Jordan took his hiatus from the NBA before coming back and dominating the last 3 years in Chicago. They were a 6 seed. And again, those were the only 2 times in NBA history where a non-top 3 seed would win the NBA championship. I said going into these playoffs, I thought that was going to change this year. I thought the Lakers, the Warriors, the Suns were the 3 best teams in the Western Conference, those being obviously the 4, 6, and 7 seeds. I did think Milwaukee and Boston were the 2 best by far teams in the East. You know, I picked all chalk in the East. You know, I've been wrong on that. So take with it what you will. But this Warriors-Lakers series is so much fun. I mean, you got LeBron, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Hachimura, and that Laker cast versus the old dynasty of Curry, Draymond, Clay. Now you had Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole. There's a lot of talent out there. We know the LeBron Warriors / LeBron versus Steph Curry rivalry. We're obviously with the Cavaliers, 2015 for 2018. LeBron took that team and faced Golden State. They went 1-1 without Kevin Durant. And then Kevin Durant joins after the Cavs came back down 3-1. And Steph Curry now has 4 NBA championships, 3 of them against LeBron James. LeBron has 4 NBA championships, looking for 5. And again, these are 2 veteran teams, though I do feel, even though the Lakers stole game 1 last night at the Chase Center at the time of this recording, which is on Wednesday, by the way, and I'll get to that in a minute when we talk Celtics Sixers and the status of Joel Embiid. But obviously, the Lakers steal game 1. The Warriors have not been a good road team all year. I think Golden State finds the ability, like they did in Sacramento. They won 2 road games at the Golden One Center in Sacramento in the postseason. I actually think they played better on the road this postseason than they have at home. Ironically, I think they find a way to steal a game in the crypto.com arena, whether it be game 3 or game 4, which I think more than likely is probably going to be maybe even a game 6. But I do think that the Golden State Warriors will finish things off in 6 games. I think they win 2 out of the 3 in Crypto.com Arena. I think they come back, they win game 2 and game 5 in the Chase Center. I think the Lakers go the series 2-1. And just like Boston last year in the NBA Finals, Golden State will put the Lakers away in 6 games. I think the Warriors are better shooters. I think that they are a better defensive team, and I trust them more when it comes to out. We don't even know if Anthony Davis, he had a monster game in game 1 with over 20 rebounds. But Anthony Davis is always sick and hurt. We saw him go off a couple of times during the first round matchup against Memphis, and I think it's going to happen again in this series, and it may ultimately cost the Lakers the series. Elsewhere in these NBA playoffs, we are seeing injuries absolutely control, like we do every year, the outcome of these playoff series. I said it at the time. If Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were healthy for the Clippers, I don't believe that's a 5-game series, especially the way the Clippers played in game one. I thought the Clippers had a real shot to take down the Suns. We are seeing it, in the Miami series where they don't have Jimmy Butler or Tyler Hero. Obviously, the Knicks did not have Julius Randle in game one. You're seeing it in Philadelphia where Joel Embiid missed game one. Now, the Sixers were able to survive that, and this may be the Sixers' year. It looks like to at least get to the NBA Finals, but again, I think it's going to all depend on Joel Embiid's health. The Philadelphia-Boston series to me is really interesting because Boston over the last few years has dominated Philly in the postseason. They seem to be Philadelphia's kryptonite, but almost like Michael Jordan against those Larry Bird Boston Celtics, like Michael Jordan against the bad boy Pistons early, like LeBron against the Pistons, like LeBron against the Celtics. You can make an argument like Milwaukee against Toronto. Even Miami against Milwaukee here recently. Like there are teams, and Phoenix against Denver, always those Phoenix Spurs Mavericks series way back in the 2000s. There are teams that you just face that you can't knock off for 2 to 3 years, but eventually you get by your kryptonite if you are meant to win championships or at least meant to make the NBA Finals. And James Harden turned back the clock. I said going into the playoffs, I think he needs to be the Sixers' third best player for them to win the championship. He was their best player for one night, which he can be occasionally, but this is what you need in the postseason, and more specifically on the road to win games. They always say role players play better at home, obviously, but on the road, you need your James Harden. You need your Tobias Harris's. You need those guys alongside Tyrese Maxey, especially without Joel Embiid, to give you enough production and then to survive on the defensive end. And Boston, they obviously have a new head coach in Joe Mazzulla. I thought it would affect them a little bit in the regular season just because of the way Ime Udoka really had that team. It seemed like buttoned up. But obviously, after his scandal came down here, Boston did not miss a beat in the regular season, but in the postseason, they struggled with an Atlanta team. And I said that they would because Trae Young and Sadiq Bey and John Collins and Capella and all those wings. Like outside of Trae Young, Atlanta's got a lot of bodies they can throw with the two wings of Boston. Boston's been very inconsistent. It's why I did not pick them to beat Golden State in last year's NBA Finals. I thought they were better than Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. I did not think they were better than Milwaukee, by the way. I thought if Milwaukee had Chris Middleton last year, that Milwaukee would have pulled it off against the Celtics. So I've never been a big Celtics postseason guy. I've always been a big Celtics regular season guy. They're always seem to be a good team, not a great team. They lose lack of focus. I've always said for years on this show, Jason Tatum does not have that dog in him. And I'm slowly starting to wonder that about Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's in a very weird season in Boston. It almost feels like he's on his way out. And does Boston now, who obviously has made one NBA Finals trip in this tenure of Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that they've had multiple Eastern Conference Finals trips. If Boston does not get by Philadelphia, which again with Joel Embiid, I think they are the better team. And I'm shocked that they just did not dominate game one, which again, young coach against the veteran coach, Doc Rivers, going back to Boston. And it's rare to say Doc Rivers is a coaching mismatch on somebody in the postseason, but I think it's the case here. And I think Boston can still win the series. I think they need to bounce back in game two, which obviously you will be seeing by the time this video goes up. I do think Boston wins game two. If Joel Embiid plays, I think, Philadelphia can keep it somewhat close. But I think Boston comes out with a sense of urgency. I think they get a nice, comfortable, somewhere between 6 and 10-point victory. And we go back to Philadelphia tied 1-1. And that is a place that Boston will not be afraid to play. This series feels like a long series. I predicted it to go 7 games, at the start of the postseason when I made my predictions. I'm sticking to it. Boston in 7. He makes a very weird series that to me already feels over. I think especially because you have between games 2, which was obviously Tuesday night, and then game 3, which is not till Saturday. So you get 3 days off in between. I think this series feels about over. The Knicks are just not better than the Heat. The Cavs losing to the Knicks looks increasingly worse every day. Jalen Brunson's a really good player. The Cavs made him look like Superman. Miami has done a really good job on him enforcing, Harvenstein and Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett and other guys to score. I think, the Heat are really a bad matchup for the Knicks because they have Bam Adebayo, because they have Kevin Love, because they have Jimmy Butler. They have this length and this defensive mentality and really tough guy mindset, and they have more scores, even though obviously they have a lot of undrafted players. We know Kyle Lowry is out. We know Tyler Hero is out. Jimmy Butler was out. And the fact for Miami to continue to battle and just be in that game in game 2 gives the Heat real confidence. I think a lot like how the Knicks dismantled the Cavs. I think the Heat dismantled the Knicks, and I think this thing is over in 5 games. In Miami, the 8th seed will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals to take on either Philadelphia or Boston, which is a really interesting matchup. Which I'm not sure. I think Miami, if they play Philly, I think they have a better chance to win than if they were to play Boston. I just think Boston is a bad matchup for them, knowing that Boston, they went to Miami last year in game 7. They won the game. They've handled Miami before in the past. I know Joel Embiid is a big presence for Philly, but again, Miami and those big bodies in there, I think that their defensive mentality will essentially take away Tyrese Maxey and James Harden and really force other scores, which Philadelphia does not have. Boston has more scores. So that's why I would probably pick Miami over Philly, but I pick Boston over Miami. This Denver Phoenix series, I can't figure it out. I know we've talked a lot about depth and chemistry in the NBA players matters more than star power, but now with Chris Paul, another injury going down for the Phoenix Suns. This is why the Suns traded away all that capital, which I'll be honest, I did not think was as much as what it was initially. But Brooklyn's got some good players. Mikal Bridges is starting to become a star over there in Brooklyn, though obviously I still would have done the deal if I was Phoenix. Again, I'll reiterate, I still don't think Brooklyn got enough. I thought they should have got Devin Booker or Chris Paul back in the deal. I don't care about first round picks. Mikal Bridges, again, could be a potential star. Don't see him as a superstar. And for a top 5 player in the NBA, you need to get a lot more than that, in my opinion. But without any depth, Phoenix, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and more specifically Kevin Durant, because you can't trust Devin Booker. This is a very similar situation to what Kevin Durant had a few years ago. I think it was 2021 in Brooklyn when he just essentially defeated Milwaukee in 7 games. Or excuse me, he lost to Milwaukee in 7 games by himself. He would have defeated them if he had that toenail on the line. But yeah, this reminds me a lot of that. Of sort of it's Kevin Durant or bust for the Suns. Monty Williams has done a poor job at managing the rotations. While like JB Bickerstaff in Cleveland, Phoenix does not seem to trust their bench. I said at the end of last year when they lost to Dallas in the semifinals in game 7 when DeAndre Ayton had a terrible game, I would have got rid of DeAndre Ayton. I don't care if he's a number 1 pick. I think he's too soft. He's not able to handle Jokic and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter to an extent. All these guys for Denver, KCP, they have just been having their way against the Suns in this series. It's really disappointing because to me, Denver is not that good of a team. I like the Clippers more than them. I like Golden State more than them. I like the Lakers more than them. To an extent, I like Sacramento more than them. Obviously, Phoenix. Why I picked Phoenix to win this thing in 6 games. I think they can still do so, but obviously they got to get the next two games in Phoenix. Will this be Nikola Jokic's year? There's a lot of talk about Joel Embiid winning MVP. You notice I barely did not say a word about the MVP award yet on this show because I really do not care about it. It's almost a phony award at this point. Whatever the narrative, the media wants to draw out, whatever. It's basically a participation trophy at this point to me. LeBron should have won 7 MVPs back in the day between Miami and Cleveland, and he only has 4. They've given it to Russell Westbrook and James Harden in years they didn't deserve it. They give it to Giannis in years they didn't deserve it. Just because of the fact that they didn't want LeBron to win it again, you can make an argument this year was Jokic's best year, and he shouldn't have won the MVP. Otherwise, 2 years, Joel Embiid should have, and yet this year they give it to Joel Embiid. So, I mean, what do I know? Denver seems to be on a collision course, though, with potentially either Golden State or the Lakers. I give Phoenix one last chance, but they got to get both these games here in Phoenix, and then a real game 5 will commiserate. I do not see Denver winning the championship. I don't see them getting to the NBA Finals. I just think, again, there are better teams than them. But right now, Phoenix is in trouble. I don't think Golden State's in trouble. I think Golden State's going to win that series. I think the Knicks are in trouble. And to an extent, I think Boston's in trouble, especially if Philadelphia plays well in game 2, which, again, you guys will know. I'll say this, if Philadelphia beats Boston in game 2, I think it could be a legit sweep, and we could be heading for a Sixers Heat really good Eastern Conference Finals, where it's an 8 versus a 3 seed. Very interesting. I do think we get Golden State Phoenix. The league wants it. We all want it. Kevin Durant against his former team and the Warriors 4 versus 6 in the Western Conference Finals. Huge overarching NBA playoffs. There's still some star power left. Obviously, Steph Curry, LeBron, the best series. You can make an argument with Giannis out, with Joel Embiid sick and hurt and all that, and never healthy. You're watching the 2 best players in the world at this point. Which, again, I know I did my top 10 NBA players heading into the postseason. That was sort of based off a draft. If everybody was all healthy, not factoring in clutch gene or anything like that. These are just sort of the 10 players in order. Again, if the whole week was healthy and there were no injuries, essentially, if you take into account injuries, health, postseason success, team success, I think LeBron and Steph Curry now, because their performances this postseason have sort of leaped Embiid and Giannis, who just, as I talked about with Joey Schneider last week, did not like his comments at all about, not caring about winning in the postseason. Essentially, I do believe that at this point, LeBron and Steph Curry are the 2 best players in the world. Jimmy Butler is pretty close. And again, we still have Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid went out, the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We'll see if they get that dog out of them. And I'm very excited to see here when we come back on Tuesday. It looks like all game 4s will be either set and ready to go or will be played on that night. So I'm assuming at this point, Denver and Phoenix will be 2-2. I'm also assuming Golden State and Lakers will be 2-2. I think Heat and Knicks is 3-1 Miami. And I think Boston Philly is also in a 2-2 scenario. Do you like that clip from the Brand's World Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World Podcast right here on YouTube.